Kumjana, I know that the topic of Srebrenica it's been with you for quite some time. I mean, obviously from where you're working, from where you're from, but and this is a film that's been a long time in the making. So we also see in the credits, like when you shot it. Can you just, for the beginning, just tell the kernel, like the first drop of you deciding to make a film and then this film?
Yes, so maybe just for the context, originally I'm not from Bosnia, I'm from Macedonia, it's the most southern part of former Yugoslavia, and I moved to Bosnia 5 years after the war. And it was, as you could imagine, the country was completely broken in so many ways. And of course, Srebrenica was one of the spaces that was suffering the most. And just as a human being, it took me around 10-11 years to live in Bosnia without having the courage to go to Srebrenica. So it's a very, how to say, it's not only difficult to face certain, because we live with the war in former Yugoslavia, we still live with the war, and especially back then, but the war lives inside of us also. So it's a very complex relationship, and sometimes you have to respect your own feelings and the body and just wait for the moment. And finally, there was a group of students that somehow I was invited to talk to, and they were telling me, tomorrow, this was in 2013, they were saying, tomorrow after this talk, we will go to an excursion to Srebrenica. And for me, it was a moment to finally, in this kind of very, let's say, different setup, face Srebrenica, and it was the first time I went. And it was a very intensive and strong encounter. It's a space that is completely emptied on one side. On the other side, something that for me is very important to say, it's one of the spaces in former Yugoslavia that, at least legally, there was a justice. Because we know what happened, how it happened. There is several cases in the ICTY where there is clear judgment.
Can you just say it's the Tribunal for Former Yugoslavia, if you don't know the abbreviation?
Yes.
It's the international body, a court that has been prosecuting the crimes committed in the Yugoslav wars.
Yes. So it is also a space that was really studied and approached from so many different layers. So there is a form of, let's say, there is a legal clearing so that the next layer of reconciliation and social work can start, which is not the case with so many other places in Bosnia and in Croatia and in Kosovo and so on. And when thinking about it, this was probably the first courage to face it in a different way, creatively, to think about how we can approach, because after this first visit, I went back as a programmer, and we presented a film program there. And again, the interaction was very strong, and there was a lot of people sharing and coming to see the films and so on. And we simply felt the urge to go back. And this was a screening organized in the public space, in a park, from 35 millimeters projection and so on. So it was very lively, and at the same time you have the presence of all of these layers of past there. And it started at the beginning the project as coming and going, and this I'm talking about 2014 and 15, so it took finally 7 years to make the film. So we started coming and going. We didn't know if we want to make a film or if we want to do something else, a different art form. It was more the urge to go back and to be there and to understand how it's possible to make something in a space that has been so abused, and at the same time it can give so much back, because for me the most important question is probably to learn from the survival, because it's survivability that for me it's very important, and it's something that we have to find ways to share. And when I say we, I really mean every space has its own traumas, and these traumas, once overcome, they become survival. So it's not about victims, it's about survivors. And it's about breaking this narrative that in history there are winners and losers. No, we all lose. When something like this happens, there is no winner. We all lose. And so it became about this. And yeah, I'm sorry if I went...
No, please. I have one more question, and of course I hope that you have questions too for Kumjana, but I would like to get this in first. It's a formal question because, of course, the title is Disturbed Earth, so it's evidence of something that is beneath, but for the untrained eye it might just look natural. Yeah. In your film, I felt you're following this path. You're just looking at surface, and then you're starting to excavate, to peel back, until finally also disclosing or discovering the actual biographies of the people we have seen in the film. Were you always clear that this is how you would approach it in a sense, like the space that actually exists? Like the going into the layers and excavating. And also, did you know which elements you would use for that exploration?
Formally, it was very it was very difficult process, I would say.
Can I stop real quick? Maybe just to there's so many films about Srebrenica. There's many. We have the news footage. It's one thing. I think those of us old enough to have been witnesses of what was happening, we know images from the news. So in a way, it's all the surface is there. We know, and then there's fiction films, and then there's reportages and all of those things. But you want a different approach that goes into this peeling from the unsuspecting surface. You don't go to the wham and then go into biographies, but you look at something that seems innocent or natural and then reveal.
Andrea, you're really describing the entrance, the beginning, and all the concerns that we had. This was precisely the start of the project, because at the beginning our, in a way, creative urge was, how can you make something which is a film that speaks next to the survivors and not about or looking upon, which is so much of the material that came out and that is still coming out that you're talking about. And it was really a challenge, because you can very easily fall in the trap without having any intention to. So we had a map. We had a map of many different points we would like to get to. We had also literally a map of the space in the way that it can unfold different aspects of the present, the dialogue with the past, the dialogue with the future, and so on. So it started in a way very naively, and of course the first kind of layer we went to was the city space. So to get slowly close to different families and parts of it, and the first community that we worked with, or family or space, is Srečko. We were longest with him. And then slowly we got to know Mirza, and we had, of course, other friends and characters. I don't want to use the term character, but... And then finally we met Meira, and this was a long relationship of just staying together and discussing, and we never planned or wanted to use archive. However, when you are in present time in Srebrenica, it's impossible not to have the past all the time. And we had to find a way of creating, also for anyone who is with us in the film, a way to enter in dialogue with the past, which is more close to the feeling that you get when you are in the space, because it's impossible to be in the memorial center and not to try to understand what happened. But the use has to be associative and not descriptive. It has to create a kind more of a feeling and as if the ghosts of the past are hunting you, and not to try to really give a graphic explanation or a graphic idea of. So when we finished the shooting, we understood that we don't have enough material. I'm very much uncovering the magic, and we went to the archive research, and we started to create this dialogue that you're talking about. And finally, the form could work and could become a film, I would say, with the third element, and this is our own position, because I think it's very dangerous for filmmakers to try to be speaking in the name of someone. You can speak only in your name, you can never speak for anyone else. So the text, the narrative that you see is basically the inscription of our own position, but also maybe we try to create a kind of a bridge for anyone who is trying to come to this journey. So it's also our current times, let's say, the witness. It's the idea of the witness.
You're talking about archive, but this is very specific archive. As I said, there is plenty of archive of news footage, and maybe not of a particular thing, but the general idea, and this is very well known, right? This is the images, but you use forensic archive, so, and you have a long list of the very detailed description of which piece of evidence from the trials you used. Why the forensic archive that was used by the courts to establish what happened, and not something else? I mean, it is obviously very deliberate, and it's very clear, and it is very detailed. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. Not only Srebrenica, but all of the spaces of violence and trauma in former Yugoslavia have been abused by interpretations. And there is so much archive which is used and instrumentalized in these interpretations. So when we decided that we have to create a bridge between the different layers of time through the archive, we had to know that the archive is literally checked and literally clear on any kind of... Of course, a court archive has also political weight. It's there is discourse in every archive. It's impossible an archive not to be a political project. This is clear. But in this case, for us it was very important that it is the archive that comes from the trials against the actions of genocide in Srebrenica. So every single archive is used by the prosecution in The Hague for the cases that were prosecuting all the different individuals and layers of military personnel who committed the genocide and the war crimes in Srebrenica. And the term, disturbed earth, comes from this forensic term that the ICT, the Commission for Missing Persons uses when searching for the spaces alongside many different complex teams of experts, the potential mass graves and spaces. And the images that you see after each map of evidence is found in these locations are the very precise images. There is nothing aesthetic in the decision. Of course, we don't use all of the images found in these spaces. We make a selection, but in terms of archival research, we could not be judged by aesthetics. It's very precise, the work, and for me this is very important. I think it's the minimum that we can do.
So questions about the conditions of filming in Srebrenica, which is not part of Republika Srpska. Was it really skeptical of you? Was it easy to do? Like, what was the reactions of you filming in that space that has been transformed into, well, the new Republika Srpska?
Yes, it's in Republika Srpska, and the laws for filming in the Federation and Republika Srpska are completely different, and it's very challenging. And thank you for this question. It's not easy at all to receive permit, yes. But the more difficult part is the social part, is the social pressure. Because in Bosnia, the war finished long time ago, but not that long. So you have many of the really convicted war criminals still at large. And film crews are never welcomed in a way. So, but in our case, what was the good element, even that I lived for almost 20 years in Bosnia, I always have the card of saying I'm Macedonian. And this is a bit helping, let's say.
So just to maybe translate, as per translation, it means you have no stake in the game.
Exactly.
So you're possibly objective, or you're not one of the enemy, or what, you know.
Exactly. And for everyone who is really, let's say, for the more nationalistic elements, everyone thinks I'm there to tell their truth. But at the end, after 2-3 years, because this is a very small town, you arrive and in half an hour everyone knows you're there. Everyone knows, and you become part of the city. And because we were completely open to all the different elements, let's say, we really become part of the life there. And the life become part of us. And when we would feel that there is something going on, that it's not good time, because sometimes things happen. You know, it's small city. You can have unpleasant meeting between some political parties, and then this is reflected in the atmosphere. And of course, you cannot be ignorant to this, or whatever, small fight in the village, I don't know. So whenever we would come, and if it's not good, we were simply staying there. Our kind of, not agreement, but really our values, both mine and Guillermo as filmmakers, are never to film if it's not good for the space and for anyone involved. So if there was any kind of incident, we would not film. We happened to be there in really problematic circumstances, many. Because easily celebrations, simple, for example, religious celebrations, with a bit of alcohol can turn very nationalistic. And so on. But we would switch off the camera, and we would really, it's also a gesture to refuse, even if you are allowed, to refuse to film and to document something which you consider violent and which you consider improper. And we have seen guns and so on and so forth, but so it's it's very complex what you ask, and I think there is no single answer, but it's more of a process for every filmmaker to be struggling with this, and to be really thinking, what does he, she, they do when they turn the camera on, or when they switch the camera, when we are how we enter a certain place. Thank you.
What to you is the power of cinema in this context? Because you talk about the very precise forensic evidence, but that's not what Disturbed Earth is. It's not a piece of forensic evidence. So what to you is what is it that cinema and film art brings to a space or to a history like that? Could or should?
It's a very difficult question.
Well, who can I ask but you?
Yeah. I mean, I think I can maybe start by saying that for me, the need to work on a project is the need to understand. And I hope that when we are working, when any kind of artist, not only in cinema, but different forms, different languages, are working in a project, they can share the knowledge and they can transform then the work into a space where we can all come together and see things from different perspectives. So for me, making art is about finding the tools to learn, because sometimes the tools to learn are not so obvious. And I hope that in some level Disturbed Earth is opening possibilities for someone to search or to find tools for understanding and for new knowledges. I think it's all about trying to understand historical, social, political, cultural dynamics that we cannot understand, that are so complex or so loaded that we cannot understand, or we are afraid to face also. So it's about making a kind of a channel to face issues that are difficult, to stand up for places that are left and that are considered unimportant by the linear kind of reading of the world, and and different realities that don't make it to the news, to the textbooks, to the schools. So it's about this, I think, to create alternative maps of knowledges.
Thank you so much. And the good news is that Kumjana has already published her next film, Silence of Reason, which had a big premiere at Sarajevo Film Festival this year. So we're looking forward to more to come from you. But for now, thank you so much, my friend, for being here. Danke Ihnen, dass Sie gekommen sind. Seien Sie noch bei uns, wenn Sie Lust haben. Kommen Sie mit raus und oder kommen Sie einfach zurück. Wenn Sie Lust haben, empfehlen Sie den Film. Er läuft noch einmal bei uns. Dankeschön.
Danke.